It's gonna work. It's being live streamed, so something's happening. I'm totally off screen, so I don't know what's happening here.
It says this meeting's being live streamed.
Okay, cool. We're giving it a few moments to kind of get over.
I'm gonna check.
That's the weirdest part of every Zoom session I do, the moment where, you know, the CIA and everyone's all, okay, click it. And
you have two. It's so great because there's two options. Your option is to say, okay, got it, or leave the meeting at the point of recording. They're like, so look, this is what's happening.
Okay, cool. Thank you for being here. I'm just gonna check because I'm really paranoid. I have an amazing sort of invisibility thing. I'm just checking on YouTube over here.
Yeah, me too.
Sure that it's working. So, okay, yes, YouTube has been initiated. That's a really good sign. Hello, everyone. I see just a couple people rolling in. We had a really fun glitch out thing. I was like, our meeting thing got all weird and StreamYard totally glitched on us. So I had to send over another link. It's a fun glitch that happens with every show that I do where we know something cool is going to take place. And so I'm also going to check Facebook, of which just really quickly, I don't think it's working. Okay, so we sort of lost the Facebook one. That's okay. So if you guys are watching this, please feel free to share this on Facebook if you can.
Yeah, go ahead, guys. Don't be shy.
Share it on Facebook. And so, okay, we're gonna go ahead and begin. Hopefully, everything goes well. So first time I've done a multi-person live stream over Zoom. So it's like, for me, I feel like I'm in a session right now. So I have to change my brainwave, but here we go. And so thank you for joining us, everyone. Really, really honored to be here. We are starting essentially a new process, a new project. Project is a better word. And so for those of you guys that have seen our channel in the past, welcome to the School of Multidimensional Intuition. The project for 2022 in the beginning is really exposing, uplifting, and talking about some of what I call the multidimensional trigger pullers in our community. The ones that are doing the work that are oftentimes the ones that are the most active on the astral plane. And what we find is those are actually not the people who are showing up on YouTube every single week and talking about the science of spirituality. In many cases, we don't really have the time to do that. And so what's happening in 2022 is we are experiencing a resurgence of an ancestral wavelength and a frequency that is rising up once again in our multidimensional soul group. And it is all about recognizing the others, recognizing the frequency within each of us, and then taking steps to then enhance, to understand, and to really build ourselves in light of what for many people right now might regard as a bit of a spiritual war, a timeline war, or what maybe it really is a kind of a reshifting of the power structure on planet Earth. And so over the coming months, we're going to be having a few guests with us here in this strange, little multidimensional realm. And the first one, which I'm actually really honored that you were willing to do this, is Jenny Constantine. And so thank you for being here, by the way. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much. I'm super excited. This was going to be a fun one. I had a feeling.
Yeah, thank you. So here's the really fun part. And for those of you guys that are watching, and I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea if anyone's watching because I'm used to looking at a whole other screen. So I have no idea what's going on in the world of YouTube or Facebook, but I'm going to talk awkwardly about how we met. And it's just a little bit, some of the reasons why that I kind of asked you to come into this strange project that we're having. And so no one out there knows this, but I think Jenny and I first met in 2021, I think actually at the Starseed Adventures conference. And it was a very particular event for me. I was honestly, I felt very sort of held at arm's length, semi-attacked, very sort of maligned by a lot of people that were there. It was an awkward thing. And lo and behold, in the midst of that experience, this woman walks right up to my table and says, "Hello, I would like to work with you." Or I think it was, I would like to what was the word? Collaborate with you. Like in the midst of all this jagged energy where I'm like, well, I shouldn't even be here. What am I doing here? And then someone comes in and is like, "Hello, I would like to work with you." And it was like one of those moments where you sort of recognize something within another person and you're like, oh, huh. And it was like, I think you've probably had this experience with people in your life where you will hear a fragment of a person's voice and you'll be like, oh shit, I know they're for real. What? Oh, hey. And it's like something goes,
oh yeah.
So thank you for carrying that. Thank you for asking. And so lo and behold, many months went by, you guys, and I got a download, which, for me is always kind of a humorous thing to talk about, but I would literally wake up in the morning over the past few months and I would get this message in my head and they're like, "Do this, get a hold of these people, do this thing, you need to start doing this. And I'm like, okay. And so it took many months, but here we are. And so anyway, after that long rant, thank you for being here. How are you doing? And yeah, how do you feel about all that stuff?
No, it's awesome. And I think that we're all on the same, not all of us, but a lot of us are all kind of flowing with the same streams and waves of changes. And that compels a lot of us to kind of magnetize towards each other. And I'm similar to you with those group, those big get-togethers. So often the group means so well. It's just, it kind of depends on the kind of person that you are. But sometimes I feel a little bit, there's just a lot of people. But I was drawn to you mostly because there are not that many. I'm a tarot reader. That's my trade. That's my passion. So I get really excited to be around other people that are equally as passionate about it. And you just had a different vibe. I have a soft spot for people that are kind of awkward, like socially awkward and introverted. I because I'm the opposite. I am very, extroverted. I'm not shy. So I just felt like we had a good mega contrast, but we also had this really common denominator. And I was like, this is just a fun matchup. And it did take a while, but I think most things do, or at least, things that are worthwhile. And in this case, I think we're actually right on track with time, because what I've noticed is the conversations have been, I don't want to say the same, but I do feel this urge or this haste to introduce some new things into the conversation, because the terrain is shifting so quickly. And it's like, okay, we've talked about, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody that needs to know what's going on at a surface level, they're already up to speed. And it's like, okay, what's next? We have to evolve as rapidly as we can, not due to pressure, but more about, okay, this is what you're supposed to do now. This is the next step. So I get the same downloads, or whatever you'd like to call them, but they're really, for me, like just bursts of energy that come out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh, this is something that's being guided. This is being, we got to do it. And sometimes it totally sucks. It's like, oh God, we got to work. Like, yeah, it's what we came here to do. We're going to have to do the work.
I feel you. And I would say collectively, we are on the stage where the work is about to get really, really intense, which is part of one of the other reasons why we're sort of branching off into this interesting way on this channel, because in the coming days and months and years ahead, the people that are doing the things that we are doing right now, and also those who are opening up to those frequencies, which is a lot of people that watch this channel. And I think I can finally see the chat, or most of it. I got my little weird window situated. So hello, everybody out there. I see Cassandra, Anita, Quantum Soul Bee. Hi guys from the UK. Hello. Please do share this video, because our sort of the whole link thing got jacked and weird, and so I had to restart it. So share this, and hopefully a few more people can join in. But we are at the stage collectively where things are about to get, this is just my belief, we're going to ask you about it in a moment, where things are about to literally kick off in a very, very strange way. And I believe that many of the tools, techniques, and sort of rules that we've been living by on Earth for the past little while are about to become very null and void in an interesting way, all the way from the standard of medical care and the way humans heal their body, down to the very way in which we live our lives, and extending also out into the spiritual realm. And one of the things I've noticed in my work is that people are beginning to connect with spirit in an organic way, in which the more that we can demonstrate the processes that we have learned in our sort of path, the more it's going to activate other people. And so that was me kind of roundaboutly coming into an intro thing. And I want to ask you, this is our first question, because one of the decisions that I made to do with this weird little project is I'm not going to do bios. And you actually helped me with that, where I'm like, you know what, screw a bio. People are going to come in and I'm going to ask you straight up, tell us about yourself. What is it that you really do? And what do what is your mission in this strange realm right now?
So I love that. Thank you. Because I was, trying to put together some semblance of a bio. And I've had to do it before because I've gone on, plenty of channels, and that's very par for the course. But I'm like, you know what? This isn't that type of vibe. I'm like, let's just keep things really organic. And so, you know, for me, I was born into an intelligence family. So I'm kind of coming into this from the other side. So a lot of the people that everybody in our community, well, I shouldn't say that. It's kind of like up until this point, we have viewed this temporal war from as sides. This is very dualistic framework and understanding of the good guys and the bad guys and the light and the dark. And it was very difficult. It was a difficult awakening for me to understand that I happened to be born into what would be considered the dark side. You know, my dad, he's a great guy, at least from, you know, because he's my dad, but he also, you know, has this almost fundamental allegiance to what we would classify as the deep state. So that's, you know, I had a very strange upbringing. So none of this to me ever registered as abnormal or weird or unusual. The esoteric world was kind of my natural state, my natural element. That was these were normal conversations. We were always talking about the nature of reality and, you know, alternative texts, alternative views. That was just kind of the nature of my upbringing as well. So I think, you know, tarot found me. I was on a road trip driving across Washington State. And I would actually encourage everybody, if you can, to get out and do some kind of exploration of the terrain that you're in. The land will trigger, in a good way, will trigger so many, you can call them memories, but really it's just, I feel like it's this natural occurrence when people take in raw, ancient, natural beauty. And it's like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And so I was on this road trip and I had the name Thoth or Thoth, whatever. In my mind, it was Thoth. And it just reverberated over and over and over in my head, like just this, it was insane. I thought I was losing my mind. And so I was absolutely compelled to pay attention. Who is this? What is this? Why am I being screamed at? You know? And then a few days later, I show up in a metaphysical shop. And then there's the Thoth deck.
Yeah.
And it really did find me. I didn't ask for it. I mean, I'm sure I did, you know, as agreements go and what have you. But that's really how I started it. I was about 24 or 25 at the time. And I'll be 33 in March. So that's been my language essentially ever since. And it's speaking on language. I think that if you've noted, I'm sure you've noticed, astrology and tarot in terms of like everyday practitioners has absolutely exploded just within the last few years. Oh, just over the course of the quarantine, all of a sudden, you know, these are languages that I think now are being, you know, they're being resurfaced, and now we're speaking in terms of elements and alchemy and principalities, you know, swords and cups and discs and wands. You know, these things are languages that we've kind of forgotten. You know, English is such a limiting thing. So the conversation is going to change. The way that we communicate with each other changes. And me, as far as my mission, I really think it changes. I'm an incredibly adaptable person. And so last year, my mission, I thought I was sure what it was, and I think I completed it. And then like this year, my mission is different. And then the year after that, it will change as well. So I would really encourage people to take this as it comes and to zoom all the way out and attempt to take in the larger picture all at once, and then try to neatly compartmentalize that into what am I supposed to do, steps A through D. You're probably biting off more than you can chew and giving yourself a headache. We can go through this organically. We just have to continue to keep, you know, these communication lines open with each other. And we're really not alone in this. I don't think in any way, like not just here in the physical, we obviously have each other, but on the other side of this, I think we have a ton of help that people don't even realize. We just can't really see it. As of right now, we can't see it. I happen to believe that a whole lot of things that have been unseen and hidden for a long time. I think we're in the process of our spectrum of perception opening up much, much wider, and the spectrum widening. What do they say? 98% of everything around us is hidden.
Totally. 98% is, yeah, absolutely. Or something like that, outside of the realm of our visible spectrum or something like that, right?
Exactly. And it's like, I think I can only speak for myself, but maybe for other people that do this kind of work, we swim around in the realms of the unseen. And part of my mission, I felt, was about helping to facilitate the transition of a populace that had been stuck within a very narrow bandwidth, a very narrow spectrum of light, spectrum of perception. And as it sort of shakes and rumbles and rattles open, blows open wider, people were going to need help grasping this. And it was going to be slow. People all the time, people like, when's it going to happen? And I'm like, this is an ancient war. The cycle has been going back like a really long time. Yeah. So, be patient. You're not really, people don't know what they're asking for. Do you know what I mean? You're going to need time. You're going to want to ease into this. Consider yourself lucky that it's not an overnight process, because you wouldn't be able to handle it. That's just my opinion.
I feel you. I absolutely. And so going back to when you first discovered tarot, and shortly after that, and it's really cool that you discovered I call it the Thoth deck, but I also, like at the beginning, I wanted to call it Thoth as well. And some woman was like, it's Thoth, you should know that. And for some reason, it like imprinted on me, and I was like, okay, that's what it is. Okay.
Because she scolded you.
Oh yeah, it was in a really, really cool way, but it was like, okay, Thoth deck. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And so, but no, that was a really big part of my journey. I had that experience with Robin Wood. The Robin Wood tarot for me was the one where like I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, I can, this is something I can understand. And so that's cool that you described the process of sort of the energy will find you. A certain one will sort of reach out through, whether it be through a synchronistic thing, whether it be through this like, telepathic thing, where they're literally contacting you, which is kind of what it sounds like.
Oh yeah.
Like the vibration goes out and you're like, oh, what? I think I want to blank, but it's really them going, hey.
Oh, it wasn't even subtle. At the time I was married, and my husband, who, bless him, he's a very understanding person. But you're trying to understand what his wife was going through. I'm like, babe.
Around what year was this? Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. This was going to be, I was pregnant with my third child. So this was going to be circa 2014, 2015. Yeah.
That was a very key time period for a lot of us. Before I go on too long, because I want to hear more about how you got started into tarot, that was actually the window of time in which I was going through some like mind-blowing thing, literally using very much the same way introducing to tarot as well. But anyway, go on. So it was about 2015. You guys were married. You were going through some, to pick up from there.
Yeah, so it just felt, and I tell people now, especially folks that want to get into tarot and they want to learn these languages, for me, my personal experience, the first 6 months of coming into possession of that tarot deck was like the most intensive window of time, where it didn't feel that I was learning this for the first time. It felt like a much deeper sense of cellular reconnectivity. And I remember at the time, my husband would make comments that even while I was sleeping, like laying in bed asleep, he could see my eyes. Like he was like, it's like you're working even while you're sleeping. And what was happening was that the language, the codex within the cards, within the book of tarot, was just being retained. And I was just working through it. And I can't even tell you how it felt. It kind of felt like, Neo's in the Matrix and he's learning about who he is, and he looks at Morpheus and he's like, now I know Kung Fu, and
it happens though, right? It literally
does, because this was a necessary tool that I was 1,000,000% going to need. It was like you're moving to you're moving to this foreign country, you need to learn the language or you're not going to survive. It felt so necessary that it was like boot camp. It was just totally boot camp. And then from there, the 2016 election took place. The October surprise, we all learned about the Pizzagate, and I don't know, I don't want to get us taken down.
It's cool. I hardly use any of those keywords, and the reality is the AI has me so like squashed down that it's it's like,
right.
Feel free, maybe it'll get us some negative attention, but yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, it just kind of felt like right on the heels of a significant period that I needed to be given this tool because I was going to need it. And then from there, the tribe, we all just kind of found each other. The right people came in. A lot of the people that were wrong for me phased out. And so it's, oh yeah, well, things will happen.
I really feel you.
I mean, I really think it could be like what's going on right now in so many ways. I think I consider it a bifurcation process. It's a filtering out of folks that have quite literally opted out of their own sovereignty. They can't really say that they had guns held to their head and they were forced to acquiesce with this NWO agenda. And if that was the case, even then I feel that there's probably loopholes. If you really had a gun held to your head, the universe is very intelligent.
Timeline choice, as we say, a timeline.
Exactly.
Choice.
Let me make sure that doesn't happen again. I'm going to close this.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Okay. So the 2016 thing was happening. Just real quickly before you kind of pick up from that, it really feels like you are part of this soul group. And I think we all are, as evidenced by the fact that we are having this conversation right now, that there was a soul group of individuals who chose to go through a series of karmic and sort of life path reconditioning events that were supposed to take place between 2012 and 2017, in which this massive group of people on the earth plane went through what I call, and for some people it's a cringe moment, I've been told when I say this, but a physical timeline shift in which we moved into a literal other version of ourselves. And so with that came old knowledge, old tools, pieces of past lives, very much like you. I just sort of a thing activated and I was like, okay, now we know how to do this thing. And so anyway, I realize I always like interrupt people. So pick up from wherever.
No, it's fine. It's this is how a real conversation goes anyways. We go back and forth, but I felt what you're describing. I literally felt that happen one day. And for me, it was actually back in 2012. Mm-hmm. The events that took place around 2012 set the stage forever. And when I tell you, as I'm sure you know, I couldn't have run, I couldn't have hidden, I couldn't have avoided or evaded these changes. I was in the backyard of the house at the time, and I was laying out, and I felt the sun switch things out. I felt the sun give me its light. And as it hit specifically my solar plexus, I just felt all this exchange of information. And I was very young at the time, 2012. I was maybe, I don't know, 20, I can't remember, but
right. It was a while ago. I feel you.
It was a long time ago. And even then I knew that nothing was ever going to be the same. I just knew. And it's interesting. You may remember this, but back in 2012, there was this phenomenon. There was this like guy who called himself Drake. And
totally.
Gets your toilet paper. And for whatever all intents and purposes were behind that, it felt to me like that ended up being a kind of dry run or test run for what we absolutely experienced back in 2018 when the pandemic hit. It felt like what happened more recently was meant to have happened in 2012. So it was like it was a timeline, weird, shifty thing happened. But yeah, 2012 was really when things got hella sketchy, but for the best, for the better.
I agree. That's cool that that's cool that you went back to 2012 as well. That was the year in which my life also like came. It's like a brick wall was, but it was the most non-physical brick wall possible. It was
Right.
like pure energy, and it was like something was, like you were saying, was literally ripping open inside my body towards December. I wasn't even into the spiritual stuff as much at that point. I was like working in like a treatment center, doing all these, like official sort of seeming, things. And it was literally like something in my body in 2012 was like my crown or something was literally ripping open. And so it's very cool to hear that, others within our soul group were experiencing key activations at that stage of the journey.
And then we all just end up like finding each other however many years later. It's a long time. It's crazy when you think about it, because at the time I remember feeling very antsy, this sense of anxiety. I wanted it to happen now. And I can't believe if I knew then how long that we were going to have to wait, do you know what I mean? I probably would have taken a seat. But that sense of haste, I think it was totally necessary. So, and I tell folks this all the time, when you feel something that it's similar to like the spirit of Paul Revere, and you can't shake it, and it just compels you. I really think, you've got to know the difference between negative non-working impulse and the light, guidance. You got to learn the contrast between those two things, but if you're really compelled to do something, you ought to do it. And I wouldn't waste any time, because we really don't have forever, at least not in this incarnation.
Totally. The world needs us now more than it has ever before. And I know that sounds like a cheesy thing when I say it, but I say it with heart. Really, to the people that are in our classes, to the people that are watching this video, to the ones that will see it in the future, truly, 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 there is an ability, there is something that you hold, a wavelength of magic. And anyway, before I go off on a philosophical tangent, tell us about the kind of tarot work that you're doing now, or the kind of the ways in which, and I also totally agree, like there are so many missions within the course of our life cycle, like many identities, many processes. I'm also shifting into a new one as well, which is awkward, but we're all kind of doing that. But how is that for? What is the mission right now with respect to what you're doing with tarot in the energetic realms, and also a very legitimate frequency of a certain type of magic, which I will talk about as well. Don't let me forget. But yeah,
Sure.
How are you?
So I used to do a lot more on YouTube. Like I had my own channel. I still have it. I just have not active on it. But I was guided to do work with a man named Bix Weir on roadtoruta.com for a lot of his private subscribers. So I've been able to utilize my divinatory abilities. And I've also played with remote viewing, which I'm not formally trained. And wouldn't you know that if you just use what you've got, you can remote view too. Yes. Totally. So, Bix is great for me because he really pushes me. He'll hold up an envelope and he's like, "What do you got, kid?" And I'm like sweating, you know what I mean? I'm like, "Oh my God," put me on the spot. And yet this type of pushing the boundaries of our psychic abilities, really just past what we thought we could do, that's something that's been very exciting for me. And I think where I would like to take things over the course of this next year. Because before this, it's really, client to client sessions for me. That's really about the client. It's tarot being a reflective surface, my ability to interpret the cards, for guidance and sometimes for, predictions and whatnot. But this year, and I'll obviously still continue to work with my clients, but I feel a sense of helping to direct just anybody who's interested to push their psychic abilities way past the breaking point. It feels par for the course now. And that may look really silly to some people. And they do it. They've been doing it in pockets of the community for decades and decades now. But I'd like to dip my toe in there and then jump in the pool and see what happens. I think it's going to be awesome.
Oh, I love that. You sort of described the process that I had very few teachers in this sort of thing that we do. Really only one person. I've talked about her on a lot of live streams. She literally just she like programmed something in me or turned on a switch and it literally just started. But I mean, very, very much like you were saying, I mean, and I sort of instantly lost the point of where I was going to go with that. We are,
That's
we are
YouTube.
Oh no, it is
YouTube, the
totally.
AI
You want
will.
to know why? Because I looked at the comments. Like that's the thing
No,
that I
don't
will
do
do on
that.
live streams. I'll be in a stream and then I'll look at the comments. And so here, hold on. Let me just address the comment really quick because it was a really good one. Thank you, Quantum Soulby. And just so you know, I can only see part of the comments, you guys. It's so awkward. Yeah, so she was gifted a deck, or he, or so sorry to assume your gender over YouTube, right? Feel free to cancel me after this. But this person was gifted a deck from their grandma when she passed away. And honestly, she says, or he says, I feel like I need to get them out. And honestly, you should. That is an example of an ancestral frequency that will get passed from one person to another. Even if your grandma had nothing to do with with tarot reading, it's a frequency that will exist. And a lot of people say it will exist. There is one in every family, whether it be divination, whether it be a healer, whether it be a shaman. In some cases, it'll be the negative version of it. You could get both. But what do you think about that? I mean, obviously, you're that version of it in your family, but what do you think about that?
I love that. And in Celtic, ancient Celtic traditions, when somebody in the clan or the tribe passed away, it was a type of, obviously they mourned, but it took on a more celebratory feel because they had this belief that we as soul groups, especially like genealogical, or genetic pools, families, we're giving birth essentially to our elders, to our ancestors. So they come back and they're able to pick up essentially where we left off. And this is why when people come to me and they're like, Jenny, who are my guides and who should I work with in the realm of spirit? And I say, well, before we get into this or that, the first thing I tell people is that there is no, aside from, God or just source, you can always tap into source. Okay. That's just, love and intelligent design, but there really is nothing and nobody more invested in your well-being and also in your soul's evolution, for lack of a better term, than your own ancestors. Your ancestors are genetically still linked to you. You are a summation of their pain, their joy, their experience. And so tap into them and you'll see how much weight you have behind your intention, and your ability to direct energy in the 3D realm can in so many ways be supported by this massive team of ancestors that's behind you. And it's really, I think it's just a matter of asking and believing in that link. The rest of it's just physics. The rest of it's just physics that we don't have, we just don't have these scientists talking about it. They're not allowed, they don't like, why would they bring that up? That there's no money in the cult for them.
Physics of the fourth dimension, as some of us might say. But yeah.
Yeah. So I love the idea of utilizing ancestral links to help us move forward here. My ancestors, my mother is Honduran and Irish, and my dad is Ashkenazi Jewish. So there's the deep state link right there. I mean, I don't care. I can say whatever the hell I want. You know what I mean? I'm not coming for anybody here. It's just, for me, I think that there was a lot of, I had to come to terms with the tribes that I descended from and the things that they had done and continue to do. And in a lot of ways, I felt like I had to make a decision very, very early on, like in my childhood. Was I going to be shadow Jenny all the time?
Yeah, right.
Because it's there. You know what I mean? The predisposition, just there, we have to understand we're not all love and light. It doesn't work like that. You have to choose.
Not even to be. Yeah, I get it.
Big time. And I was like, you know what? I'll be shadow Jenny sometimes when I need to be, but for the most part, I'm here for the fam. I'm here for the boys. I'm here for the kids. I'm here for the girls. I'm here, to figure this shit out because the principalities that we've been up against I think they've just been in control for too long, and it's TikTok time is up. And now this is really kind of just a matter of landing, like facilitating the landing, the grounding, in a way where we're not like freaking the fuck out too bad. You know what I mean?
Totally. Oh man, I feel you. This is the stage in the movie, and this is a cheesy thing that I say a lot, so sometimes it sounds kind of embarrassing, but this is the stage in the movie in our life cycle on Earth where that someone comes and knocks on your door. They're like, hello, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, hello, whoever you are, we need you. You need to remember this thing, like the time is up and you need to come back. You need to remember. And so that ancestral frequency is there, and it's sort of activating, which is where I was going to go earlier, activating things in us that we did not previously have, wavelengths of knowledge. And earlier you had described the process of what I was programmed with early on was jumping off the cliff when it comes to psychic work. And I was told, you know, you will literally just close your eyes at a certain point and take a breath in and here we go. And just something will take place. And for me, that was a frightening thing. But when you talk about really challenging yourself psychically or really pushing your abilities to as far as they can go, to me, that's the literal example of it. For me, that's also kind of how I started doing this thing. It was like, I just would, you know, here we go. Just started. What's cool is that, you know, it was clearly the right choice, as evidenced for both of us, as evidenced, you know, by where we are now. But that is a thing. And I have also noticed that remote viewing, or the ability to remote view, along with what we call the wavelengths of claircognizance, are two of the most easily and heavily activated on the earth plane right now, meaning that they are natural abilities. And for those of us that are willing to talk about our organic processes of how we have learned that, and our experiences in what we have, you know, been picking up and how we've been doing it, for many of us, that's what actually organically activates it in others. It's like the talking about and the hearing about it, and the human mind kicks in and they're like, I wonder, could I do that? How would that work? And for many of you guys that are watching, just by hearing the talk about this, those wavelengths are opening within you as well, which was also a thing very much that happened for me when I started this. It was like, I did not know I did not even know, you know, I thought I had to be taught how to do certain things, kind of like you. And I was in a Facebook group at the time, you know, all kinds of wild shit happens through Facebook, you know, love it or hate it. And I was in like a remote viewing test thing, and I was with some guy, and I think he honestly blocked me later on, but we like remote viewed each other's room. And I was like, I don't know, I think I could do this. Let me see. And I just kind of like you, it was like a thing, and you're all, here you go. Mm-hmm. And it got so weird, they don't even talk to me now. And so, you know, but that is a real thing.
Saw too much.
You know, maybe that's what it was. No, actually, I made a bunch of videos about their Lord and Savior and disclosure, and they all blocked me. But that's a conversation for another time. But anyway,
that's a good one there. That'll get them going.
That's a conversation for another day. But anyway, that actually leads me to a question that I wanted to ask you specifically for this. And I did actually write down a couple of things, which, if you know me, it's like incredibly rare. The fact that
I did that too. I'm not kidding you. I never do that. And I made notes of some key points that I wanted to like touch on. We've already touched on like a few of them anyways, but cool. That's wild.
That's a really good sign. Okay, cool. Because that's a very rare thing for me. That's also what I call it. It's like there's a frequency that'll come in and they'll give you a thing that you need. And so the thing that I also want to ask you about is, because I very much enjoy your viewpoint on energetic matters and the way in which you see what I call, and this is a vague way to describe it, the transactional nature of our energetic realm with people. And one of the things that I wanted you to comment on or give me your views on is, what do you think about the Galactic Federation and all the wild ET kind of disclosures and channelings and all the, you know, implantations and the councils? And what do you think about all that right now?
I hate it.
Nice. Yeah.
Look, hate is a strong word. I'm certain that all of these concepts and buzzwords and streams of consciousness, as they've manifested in the awakened community for decades, I know that it has a purpose. I've never felt a draw to any Federation of Light, Galactic Federation. That for me personally has never been my focus. I work with my core group in spirit, and I've kind of stayed in my lane as far as that goes. But I have noticed a trend of, channelers that for me, what it feels like, and this is not a huge blanket generalization, because I can't take away from people's individual experiences.
Be real, it's
Just,
totally cool. Yeah, it's all good.
Who the hell am I to say what somebody is experiencing isn't? I don't have the authority to do that. However, the way that some of these channelings resonate to me, like what it feels like, is that they're tapping into a kind of into a field, like a field that is more like when you pick up the phone and it rings all the way through and you get the voicemail, and it's like a loop, kind of a recording loop that was placed on a certain layer of a bandwidth that the controllers knew a lot of people were going to feel able and excited to tap into these, into something else. And I think that they set some of these recordings in place so that people can grab onto those, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm channeling aliens. And it's like you're channeling a narrative, still a script that's literally been placed in the ethers, waiting for the day to come that you open that, pick up that phone. So it doesn't vibe with me, but I also know people personally that feel a connection to these various ET races. The only ET race, for lack of a better term at this point, that I feel really guided to, I've always felt really I've vibed with the Arcturians. I love them because they are, my understanding is they have such an advanced military, and I'm all about military stuff. So I just always thought that was fun. And then I feel a real sense of connection to whomever, whichever tribes that I think are allied tribes, inner earth stuff. The ones that are essentially here, and they know that we're here, but the constructs that have separated our world from their worlds, I think that those constructs are kind of breaking down, which may be part of the reason why some of these languages, and even things like telepathy and light languages, those things are going to start coming up, so that we have a means, a common ground to communicate with some of these races that we're now ready to interface with. That's what I think. What are your thoughts on it?
Honestly, it's like you're kind of saying a thing that I've been in a much more articulated way than I've been saying for a while, and that is that I have observed directly in the work that I've been doing what I believe to be a fourth density layer, in which our collective consciousness implants and uploads thought forms and dreams and ideas and things that we collectively dwell upon. One of those are the disclosure energies, the galactic councils, the foundations, the federations of light, the Ashtar commands. And what I have observed in my own way is that, very much like what you were saying, is people will open certain filters within the energy body, namely places I've talked about many times, like crown chakra, bindu chakra. There's little openings within the upper chakras that, when they flow, we will have access, kind of like a radio station, to a whole bunch of other radio stations. Now, just like on the radio, though, you'll hear people actually talking. Now, check, they'll have a conversation, but also on the radio, you'll hear a number of songs and channels and all sorts of things pre-recorded, as we know. And so what I have observed is that many people are able to tune into that. It's one of, I think, the foundational elements of what happens when we open the energy body, and we're able to perceive more. And suddenly, people start realizing that they're psychic, and all these things kick off. And one of the stages of the crown chakra opening is when we tune into all these things. And so I believe, there's a lot of this sort of recording thing that is happening. And the crazy thing is, we're feeding it and creating it. It's one of what I call the lower level things. I don't know if you follow Law of One at all, but what I believe when they talk about the social memory complex, that's part of what occurs. We start tapping into these collective brainwave frequencies. One of them is the sort of, the sort of channeling frequency that a lot of people are tuning into. Another one, there was another one I was about to state, and it literally got whisked away. So maybe that was fun.
YouTube will do that. YouTube will take it right out of the...
I didn't even look at the chat on that one, but I definitely agree with you. It is a murky road. And as a person who's sort of entry point into this soul group that we're in right now, it was not me as a psychic and me doing this work. It was me trying to understand the ET experiences that I thought I was having. And for me, it was not some beings that showed up in a craft and took me to, like the LOC. And, it was none of that. We did not go on the Anshar bus to Mars. It was a literal telepathic conversation that was the strongest and clearest thing that I have ever received in my life. And so I knew it by something else. And so I always like to ask people like, and maybe this is me asking directly, do you feel like you've had direct contact with any of the members of your ET soul group?
Oh yeah, all the time. And now, it's different because I've identified a core group. I call them my core group. I have a human spirit guide in General George S. Patton. He came to me several years ago, and you try telling that man that you don't want to work with him. You can't, I was absolutely compelled to work.
Honor. Yeah, no, I feel you.
For sure. But yeah, I've had a lot of things really sketchy happen to me as a kid. It stopped happening. It stopped happening after I became an adult. The weirdness and the spookiness and anything that would be considered like scary or malevolent stopped. But it did happen when I was very young. This is like this, probably one of the scarier things, but a member, somebody that my mother was really good friends with, a childhood friend of my mother's, who was a very troubled man, very, very troubled, because when he was a teenager, he was abducted and nobody believed him. He just went to take the trash out one day, and like he didn't come back for 12 hours and he was never the same. But my mom was the only one that believed him. They were kids, but my mom was like, I don't know, Jenny, like I didn't understand what he was talking about, but he was my friend. His name was Joe. And, she was compassionate towards him. And so I think I might've been 8 years old. And I only know this story because my mother told me what happened. I was completely I don't remember. I have no memory of it whatsoever. But she said that I very adamantly started calling her in the middle of the night, Mom, come here. And I have no recollection of this. So she comes running into my room. She's like, what is it? And she said that I started to recite this little jingle or catchphrase that he said a lot. He was an Italian guy. So I suddenly had this sing-songy Italian accent talking about like this inside joke that only they had. And so she was completely freaked out. She got on the phone. She's like, what's going on? She had a feeling Joe died of a heart attack that night and jumped into my body to connect with my mother. But here's the thing. He really was taken by what we would consider malevolent aliens, because his story, it was the little gray men. They weren't green. He said they were gray, and they hurt him. They harmed him in ways. He said that they fiddled with the brain. He said he used the word scrambled. You have to understand, my mom's old school. She had no idea what to do with this information. All she knew is that this was her friend, and she had to show him support. So that was an experience. I could say that my vessel was utilized where I don't allow that anymore. That's not, you don't get to just jump into my vessel for better or for worse. You know what I mean?
But it's certainly a thing that'll happen, like for real, right? It definitely will happen. But and these days, like I said, I mean, that you could go to my Facebook and see this, but like 24 hours before I had my first child, I was visited. It was so beautiful. I call him Granddad Dolphin or Granddaddy Dolphin. And he was so big and he was so old, but his voice, he spoke to me telepathically. He had such a youthful voice, not like a child, but just the most warm, peaceful, like loving energy. And that was back in 2009. And he was like, he said, humanity is headed for times of great change, and they will need many leaders.
and then I kind of just was able to stay there with all the dolphins in the water. I was heavily pregnant, and even in the vision I was still heavily pregnant, and the dolphins were just all around me in my belly. And then 24 hours later my waters broke and I became a mother. So to me, I think that was like an initiation. That was them. They were saying like, listen, you're an adult now, kid, you know, welcome to adulthood. It's gonna be a ride. So yeah, I do feel connected. It's just, I don't like Ashtar Command. I don't like the Andromeda Council. I don't like the Galactic Federation of Light. So also, if you look at some of the people that have been peddling a lot of that narrative for decades in this community, and then look at like their social circles and look at what they've managed to accumulate, the vibe that they've accumulated around their reputation, it's not something that I want anything to do with. I'm like, there's just drama and bad vibes here. So I stay in my lane. I stick with people that resonate with my information. I don't usually like, go out and like, hey guys, everybody come work with me. I just, I do my thing and I voice what I think is happening, and people come to me. So that seems to work. But no, you're never going to catch me, in a circle. Let's just contact some aliens. Like, nah, that's not my vibe.
Oh, no, I love it. I love the authenticity that you will bring into that, because I have noticed that it, it's almost like people will sort of tune into this sort of other kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Persona, as we start certain, or when we're within certain stages of this awakening journey. And I think the ones that last, the ones that continually demonstrate true authenticity, even if it's at times the need to say, fuck this shit, you know what I mean? Those are the beings that continue to keep going, and we grow and we evolve. And if you cannot evolve past, like the consciousness gateways of like the blue avians, and like all of the like the councils and all that. And here's the thing, this is also coming from a person who very, very recently, I mean this in the true heart, I have been in contact with what I believe to be councils within an astral space, but honestly, they don't say anything about politics. They don't give a shit about disclosure. They have nothing to say about the overturning the darkness on our planet. They talk about you and your soul's journey and the things that you're overcoming, or me, I'll talk about from my perspective, the things that I was healing and I was part of my journey. And even when I tried to reach into like, what's going to happen with such and such, it's like,
it doesn't matter.
It's like it wouldn't even register. And to me, that was a key experience. And it was interesting to have had those experiences going back all the way to like 2016 was when I started to find some kind of weird council energy, or this group of beings that would show up. And probably like you, I think those are the beings that when I do readings now and when I do healings, it's like I'll sort of turn to my left and this conversation starts. And I think that's who they were, but it's an individual thing that I think everyone comes to in their own way. And anyway, I'm kind of twisting off here and there, but
well, no, but it makes sense considering why would they be bothered with a socially engineered narrative?
Yep.
It's like Tinker Toys. It's such a delicate, paper thin template. It's like, poof, it's gone. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? Left versus right, and just some of that stuff. The narrative, the counter narrative, and then the counter narrative are all contrived anyways. It's all orchestration. And I can only speak for myself, but the most intensive work and some of the more illuminating experiences that I've had were when I stepped away entirely from the narrative, and then where I thought I stood in the mix, around 2016, 2017, in the height of MAGA culture and Trump, that I still love Trump. I'm a MAGA girl forever. But, I think I kind of became wrapped up in a persona where I felt that, okay, this is my team, and this is definitely what I am about, and this is definitely where I see myself in contrast with the world around me. And now, we've taken that further. It's like the terrain has changed. We now have to redefine where we are. It's not, this is going to continue to change. The changes are going to continue to happen. So, you know, I try to tell people, let's not get too wrapped up in where we see ourselves in the narrative. You know, whether you're left, you're right, you're for this person or for that person. I'll tell you right now, like Joe Rogan and this whole spectacle, all of this is scripted, contrived. You know, it's completely scripted. Even from the outrage and the support and the this and that, all of this is being socially engineered. And to what end? I mean, we can really only, you know, do the work and attempt to predict and I guess speculate. But the one thing for sure is that this is not, we're looking at people that have, they're all initiated. They know things that the surface population does not know. And so moving forward with that knowledge, that we are really just being directed, our energy is being directed, corralled, for the purpose of crystallizing a specific agenda. I think this is where people like you, people like me in our community, we're kind of having to employ some guerrilla tactics here. And instead of, you know, riding on the coattails of a narrative that's absolutely being constructed for us, we're going to have to construct our own narrative and say, this came from us. This came from our higher selves. Joe Rogan didn't tell us. This person didn't tell us. Because as awesome as it is, and as much exposure as is taking place, that's all still contrived stuff. And I think like things are going to become very tribal in the next few years. And it really is going to come down to communication with your group and survival, and whatever it's going to take to get us to the next phase of this is probably going to be a lot more challenging than a lot of people are prepared for.
I fully agree. That's literally why we are doing the things that we are doing now and coming through these breakthroughs and the realizations. And some of them are alliances, and some of them are disappointments. And you know, so it sounds like you're not going to be taking your music off of Spotify at any time. Anytime soon. I won't either. I'm definitely, you know, but yeah, no.
You know, I don't even have Spotify. I don't have a Spotify account. I'm
do actually. I do. It's like the only.
I mean, who cares? You can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, it's a big joke, as if any of those people even matter anymore. And so I'm going to ask you a semi-triggering question. And so, because I too agree that nearly everything that we see placed in front of us, in front of mainstream media, or the figureheads, whether it be the anti-figurehead of mainstream media or, you know, the pro-establishment side, I personally believe, or what I have observed, is that we are in the age in which every single thing that is presented to us within that theater is literally theater. It's a play and a show that we're watching. And so along with that, here comes the triggering question. So if that's going on, well, what about all those truckers up in Canada? And, you know, is that part of the show? What do you think? And I say this very authentically because I actually don't know. I still don't know which part it is, but what do you think about that? Is that part of the agenda, or is it an organically occurring act? What do you think?
I think that it's both. And I don't know either. I don't know. I can speculate and I can commentate, but I don't know. What I do know is that the trucker convoy was predicted. It was talked about. I believe there was a Simpsons reference made. Surprise. And then the Illuminati card game as well. And so.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah. So here's the thing. I think that humans, and I call them the surface population because they're unwashed, uninitiated, they're being towed in a direction. The way that I would work it out is, imagine that there were these ancient bloodlines and ancient cults, ancient gangs. There was a good bloodline, relatively good bloodline, and a relatively bad bloodline. But both bloodlines, all bloodlines that were in control of this realm, know that all things go in a cycle. I think that the good guys and the bad guys both knew that their cycle of control was over. And so the changes that are occurring on this planet, there isn't enough propaganda or mockingbird media. There isn't even enough mind control to kind of suppress or hide these astrological changes. This cycle is going to happen no matter what. So when Q says nothing can stop what's coming, that's what I think that this is what they're referring to. And try to imagine that the good and the bad, the dark and the light, figuratively speaking, shook hands and agreed to toe this narrative. And we get all excited and we're like, yeah, and that's great. Our enthusiasm is awesome. But keep in mind that the script is still a script. And to be more of an observer is probably going to be, the best course. I'm not saying don't get involved. Okay. I mean, I if I was there, I would go. I would cook for people. I'd roll blunts. I'd be like,
yeah, just say, right. No, totally. Like, be a part of the energy and the experience. I totally feel you.
I just think that we're going through the motions of a mechanism that knows us and our psychology and the cycles of life and civilizations better than we know ourselves, better than the surface population knows itself. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, people have always needed some kind of guidance. And I tell people, you think you want anarchy? You don't. The state of things, and I can only speak for myself. I'm sure there are some people that would do great with anarchy, but as Western civilization stands right now, we're not ready for true, genuine anarchy. So I think we do have to go through these steps. I predict that there will be a similar trucker convoy type of move made in the United States. And I think we're going to see that actually short term. But what that's going to do is likely lead us into the next phase of this, which is a perceived food shortage and an issue with our supply lines. So again, scripted, but that does not mean that there won't be real fallout, real pain and suffering, and also real solutions. Yeah. So it's kind of like, just try to imagine that we're all in school right now and that the curriculum has already been written out and we're kind of just being observed and see, okay, what are they going to do now?
Yeah. Oh no, I very much agree, all the way down to the idea that a new one is going to occur in a very short period of time. And I'm also saying that as a person who's in a bubble. Like, I've not been following many things, but I've been talking about a few things, and absolutely there's going to be a similar thing that will occur here. It's going to kick off, maybe not within the similar manner of this whole trucker thing, but a very similar action is going to take place between, it looks like, around mid-February to probably all the way down into the end of July. It's like a predetermined period of time that seems to correspond with a number of what we would call the so-called Illuminati holidays, one of those being the season of sacrifice that I believe begins in March and kind of ends at another point. It might have been in May. I usually forget the dates, but it's a series of time in which it's literally set aside for certain acts to take place. A series of sacrifices on the earth plane will take place just as they do every single year. And kind of going back to one of the things you were saying earlier, whether it's a trucker convoy or whether it's a Occupy this or that, or whether it's Joe Rogan, on Spotify, I really believe that everything right now has been telegraphed. Just like you, it has been written. We agreed to come here. And one of the things that I often say about, this sort of cycle of Earth lives that we all agree to, and for some of us, we had to audition to come to Earth. I'm pretty sure I had to try really hard, and almost like, we don't know. And I was like, yeah, I could do it, I swear. And, so now, now we're stuck here in some ways. But, and so, we agreed to come here for the sole purpose of not to abolish the darkness, which is, I think, a thing that some people get triggered by when they hear me say this. Our mission was not to destroy darkness. It was to balance it. The nature of the earth realm will always be equal parts dark and light. That's what we come here to experience. And then we get to choose, like, how much of this, how much of that do I want to have? And so, anyway, just kind of an observation. I feel like maybe some of the people that are listening to this, they may know me. Like, our community is pretty small. I love what we've got going on in our community, but even just a few years ago, I'm telling you, I was so angry, and all I wanted to do was meet these people in the field of battle and just start
cutting throats and stacking heads. And I still have a sense of rage. That all comes from these pain and suffering of the children, right? And everybody that's been hurt by these death cults. And then now I suddenly realize, oh shit, we've all incarnated as those people. We've been them. So I'm like, wait a second, like, Jenny, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to want to, strangle these child molesters and kick the bad guys' asses. Like, that's all fine and dandy. That's great. But this was actually not going to be that. It wasn't going to be as simple as the good guys beat the bad guys and then that's it. Yay, happily ever after. Wait a second, guys. Here's the kicker. You're all the good guys and the bad guys. You're all mixed together. Do you know what I mean? And this is gonna be just a massive realm-wide exercise in understanding the fundamental principle of duality and how we really will have the opportunity to choose where we go from here on out. It's wild, but like, even just in the last few years, I thought I knew it all. Even like last year, the beginning of last year, you couldn't have told me anything. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, wait a second. Do you know what I mean? So and really, I just want to be super clear. I don't want anybody to think or to perceive what I'm saying as downplaying the trucker convoy or Joe Rogan. I'm not trying, like, I'm so happy to see this because I know that we're par for the course. We are right on target. We're right on track, We
must be able to examine it. We must be able
to.
Authentic, we have to be able to, like, well, let's just, what's underneath there?
Let's take a look at this,
Yeah. But yeah, man, I feel you. I really do. Let's find, there was a comment that I was going to make, and it's like, you made it for me in a weird way, but
isn't that weird? That seems to happen.
I'm going to click onto the YouTube actual page, because I think there's a few people watching. I honestly have no idea. So I'm going to click over on the YouTube side. Thanks to you guys. Let us know if you have any questions for Jenny, or if there's anything that you would want to ask about. And it's what's weird on my computer, it's nearly frozen. So hold on here. There we go. Okay, I think we got it. I always get afraid that I'm going to lose my sort of Zoom window. So be sure to let me know if our Zoom thing goes down. But cool. Thank you everybody for being here. Let's see. There it is. So yeah, thanks you guys. So let us know. I finally found the chat, by the way. Yeah, good to see you guys. Cassandra, hello. Katie Cat, good to see you. Brooklyn Way, seriously, thanks for hanging out, you guys. Let us know if you have any questions for Jenny. One of the plans, or one of the cool things I was hoping to do with this episode that we're doing, is maybe do a few readings. And so think about if you feel like you want to do that. It's a very common thing that we do on this channel. So think about how that is. But I have just a couple other questions before we go into that stage. And I also don't want to wear you out. I know we've been here.
Oh no, I'm fine. It's Saturday night. I'm chilling.
Okay, cool. So I do have another question, which is kind of, within the vein of some of the other things that we've been talking about, but and it's just one that I have asked a lot of people. It's just kind of like a buzzword moment, but what do you think about this whole cloning and AI thing? Is Joe Biden a real person? And how many of them are, infected by a hostile AI, and how many of them are actually humans? What's your viewpoint on this on that whole thing? What do you think?
So that's a weird one. I look at Joe Biden and I see, I just see a vessel. I see a vessel that has lended itself to essentially the highest bidder, to, whomever is going to, puppet those strings. One of my qualms with people like Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, who I absolutely admire in their own way, is that they kind of always have this air of transhumanism, like that we are just inevitably headed in this direction where AI rules. And I have a problem with that, because I actually believe that AI, as they describe it and the vision that they have of it, it's this bastardized, very low vibe version. It's a mimicry of something else we think that AI is just the only way. Everything will be AI. No. There is some kind of an intelligent network that already exists here. It's an ancient network, but it was taken offline due to some kind of what we could consider a parasitic stranglehold on that network. And so I think part of what's happening here as a result of these astrological changes is that parasitic hold is being defeated. Essentially, it's dying off. Kind of like how certain elements have like shelf lives. They can only exist for so long. And I think that the changes here are crumbling this, whatever construct has been keeping that network in a stranglehold. So while they might really, they being, the figureheads of the day, feel like we're, they want to drag us into this AI future, virtual reality, and what have you. I think that that's kind of just a setup. They're setting us up to choose their version of the network, where the real network is so much grander than AI. And we don't know, because we're just, we just take what they give us and we're like, wow, this is amazing. It's because we don't even know how incredible the ancient network is. So is Joe Biden alive or dead? I mean, I don't know. He registers to me, honestly, as someone like an NPC, like some of these people that you meet in the store and you're trying to have a conversation, or you just even pleasantries, and they're just not there. So he's tethered to the network that I just described. He's considered a type of cog in their machine. And then there's people like yourself, people like myself, and we don't even know the nature exactly of this alternative network, this natural ancient network. But I feel like a cog in that network, which is why the AI insults me. And I'm like, ew, it's fraudulent. It's an imposter. And it's hard to describe, because I'm like, I can't show you examples of this old network, although the Tartarian Empire, there's all kinds of, there we go. So there is evidence of it. AI is not for me, man. I don't think it's the way to go.
Feel you. One of my big theories on this is that for many of us in previous life cycles, we were kind of the creators and the purveyors. And in another realm, which I think for a lot of us, what we might call Atlantean, which we all know we're kind of repeating the process. But I can tell you, me, at least the lifetimes that I have viewed within that sort of realm, I was very much kind of one of the people who was putting it in people. And it's funny that now in this life cycle, we're taking it out, which I think is a thing that's kind of how it goes for a lot of us. In many cases, not all, because, as soon as you say every time in multidimensionality, the universe is like, oh, really?
Really?
And they will give you an exception. But many of it right now, totally, dude. Every single day, I'm like, as soon as I say it's always like this, they're all, really? But it seems as though many of us right now who are blowing the whistle, who are calling out this process, who are here to go, okay, guys, hold on, don't. Maybe you shouldn't do that this time. It's because we were the ones who manifested it before. We didn't know what we were doing. Very much like, the emptiness of the NPC that may be within Joe, I can't say the word, Joe Biden right now. They do not even know that is what they are doing. And along with that, though, the more I look into the man's frequency, the more I can feel that it's like a shell.
Yeah,
it's a shell. I think there's at least 4 of them.
I think you may be right, because he looks different like every time you see him. For sure.
Yeah, a bunch of other people are as well. Usually the AI is very kind to me, but I won't say all their names. But there is one who I always say, because it's like, and this sounds crazy, but he's a person on the earth plane whose consciousness, I think, is so intimately connected to AI that when you say his name, it just knows. And that's Jeff Bezos.
Oh, yeah.
He has a literal AI network that he's running, that he's a part of. It's not 100% hostile, but if anyone wants to get a good example of it, look at the left eye.
Oh, yeah.
There's an organic version and there's a non-organic version. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing, but watch out. I'll go on a long rant. I can see the chat a little bit, and it looks like C says, what does NPC stand for? It stands for non-playable character. the basic concept behind it, and this is triggering for some people, and maybe you can comment on this in a moment. The basic concept behind it is that there are many people on the earth plane who do not have souls and are not actually real human beings. Yes, there's a physical shell, there's a thing there, but there is not an actual presence, which is a thing that I also observe in many, many beings on the earth plane. But what do you think about that? Soulless humans.
So totally. It's so weird. I feel that one of the purposes of the soulless humans, which I know is a real thing, was done to manipulate the humans that do possess souls into a kind of, it's like a numbers game. Because my understanding of consensus reality is that we, as the surface population, we experience the frequency, the radio station, if you will, of the collectively agreed upon view. And so imagine having, let's say there's 100 million people, and then a huge chunk of those are soulless humans. The things that those soulless humans parrot, and their swarm patterns and their life patterns, and this constant emission, their contributions into the ecosystem of the greater whole, they create a type of consensus reality that even the humans that possess souls, they're tempted to go along with. But the true, people that have organic human souls, you'll feel compelled to do, you'll feel the fire of, no, this is wrong. And, that's why I think a lot of it has to do with choice, because I know humans with souls that have completely acquiesced to the propaganda. And I don't have an answer for that right now. It blows my mind. I'm like, I've known you for years. You're an intelligent person. You're an intuitive person. And yet you don't see a single thing wrong with this. So I'm having a hard time reconciling that, but it is what it is. I don't try to change anybody's mind. I don't care. But I think soulless humans are very real, and I think, were put here as a means to tow the collective energy of humans that do have souls, which, as you know, we have that creative ability. What we think, what we believe, turns into reality constructs, which is why for so long we've believed in fiat currency, just based off of our sheer belief. This is a Babylonian money spell. It's just a spell. And so you get all of these NPCs that just go along with it. It's very tempting because people do move in herds. So a lot of people just kind of want to get, they get stuck in the current of it all. But this is why the warrior class that, you made reference to, we're here to say no. And, for me personally, I was born with a chip on my shoulder. I was born into this family with an attitude. Like, I'm like, I don't believe you people. Like, I think you're all full of shit. And I've always had that, because that was the tool that I was going to need to keep me right where I needed to be. Otherwise, it would have been so easy, way too easy, to just get caught in the current of the propaganda, which is what I think that's about.
I totally agree. You came in with the filters open, which is, I think, in many reasons why the people like you and I are very much in need right now on the earth plane, because you will not be susceptible to the same level of mind control as everyone else on the earth plane. It is not a good, bad, right or wrong, more special, less special. It's some people will have a different level of energetic filtration. Everyone can obtain it. Everyone can get there. But some of us, the ones that will come in with it, and your sort of calling, your mission, your sort of duty on the earth plane is to do literally what, you and I are doing, is like, we will be activating that within others. And the more people take in that energy, the more they continue to spread it. And it makes absolute sense. And with that, we're gonna really softly switch the channel over back to the realm of tarot, because otherwise I will keep you here forever, because honestly, and thank you for coming on here, because I have very much enjoyed your viewpoints, and just the way in which you have articulated so much of this. But yeah, going back to the realm of tarot, or the realm of what you do as an energetic practitioner or a kind of a spiritual being. What do you think people need to know right now about those people who are opening up their own stuff? Because I know you had some things you also wanted to mention. Some of those I think we have probably covered, but what do you think people need to know about that? Or maybe your work in and of itself? And that's a very multi-leveled question. So take anything you can from it.
Sure. Well, this is going to seem kind of unrelated, but I feel just guided to bring it up. So I'm going to. When I was very little in kindergarten, I used to go to school in Fairfax County, right outside Washington, D.C., and my dad worked at CIA headquarters. That's like fucking weird, right? You have to understand, I didn't think that was
weird for some reason. I am very comfortable with it. I don't know why. I feel like I had a lot of CIA stuff in other lives because I just accept them in a weird way. I'm like, yeah, they're there. Cool. Anyway, but yeah.
Always there. And in these incarnations, it's called the CIA. But if you go back, they're the same principalities of control, just under different guise, a different gang, a different name. But I went to this school, and I'll never forget. This is probably one of my most primordial memories of connecting with a being outside of 3D time space. And it's so interesting. Do you know the teacups, the spinny teacups?
Yeah, totally.
The playground. I hate things that spin. You couldn't pay me to get on a spinning thing now. I get sick. But I will never forget. I was spinning. And as I was spinning, something must have opened up. And I met a bipedal, vegetarian, highly intelligent reptilian being. Yep. And so a lot of people are like, the reptilians are evil. And I'm like, I know that there are some really nasty ones, but there are also vegetarian ones, that meaning they don't eat people, and they're highly intelligent. And he came to me with nothing but love. And he let me know, as to what extent that a child could understand this type of thing. I had no fear whatsoever. I was like, oh, hi. And it wasn't so much about what he had to say to me as much as now in retrospect, I realized the spinning motion opened up some kind of a vortex. And if you look at the Sufi tradition, the Turkish, and they spin, their meditation is to spin and spin and spin. And this has some kind of an effect on the cog that is the human vessel to connect it with the natural network that exists here. It's ancient. They tried to take it offline. Nasty networks, AI networks, are competing with it for dominance of the field. But the spinning taps us into it. And as a child, the teacup was what opened me right up. So I felt guided to just mention that.
Oh, totally. I'm glad you did.
Yeah. And there was something else, and it just went away.
Yeah. Hold that really quickly. I just want to say it. And maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but that to me, meeting benevolent reptilian was one of the most viscerally real experiences I have had in this life. And it was nothing negative, and there was no bad energy. And it was like I physically touched it with my hand, to the extent that even now when I think about it, every single time, it's like I feel a texture under my fingers. It was one of the most realest things I ever had. And it was not a negative, horrible. I was also, though I will say, I was aware that I had no control over it.
Right. They're like, guess what?
And then that happened. But thank you for mentioning that. I'm really glad you talked about that, because I think that also brings a little bit of a tie into, and maybe this is me going off on another tangent, but a tie into a very legitimate wavelength of energy from the system we call Orion, that is interacting on a much greater level with us here in this time period on Earth in just ways right now that we'll understand more in the future. But to me, you are describing the essence of Orion energy, not only in your mannerisms, the way you communicate yourself, the no bullshit kind of stance that you will take on many things in the world. For those of you guys who have not been formally, acquainted with it, that is the essence of real Orion energy, at least what I have been shown. It is not necessarily a conquering dominational force. On the other side of it, there is also a very, very unique, it's like a masterful element of spirituality that is able to harness both forces, both elements and then make a choice in which way they go. And to me, it sounds very much like what you've been talking about here. And you know, other people describe Orion in different ways, but that's what they have shown to me. And so anyway, that said, I might have
that's incredible. It's I didn't actually hear of Orion placed in that framework. I've always actually only heard negative things, but again, I don't subscribe to the narrative. I'm like, you say it's negative, I personally don't freaking know. So I'll take it all in. I remember what I was going to say. And I do think it ties into the bigger picture and soul's awakening here. You know, the teacup and spinning that vortex wide open. And then now drawing the line between, you know, the Sufi tradition and the spinning and how it brings the human vessel into this state of pure reception. I would draw everybody's attention to Britney Spears, okay? And Britney Spears being a classic case of MK Ultra, Project Monarch, sex kitten programming, and the significance of her journey back into an awareness of herself. Again, this is scripted in a way as well. So if you pay attention to her videos, you will see her constantly spinning. It's almost this compulsive twitch. Her body, she can't help it. She's spinning, she spins, she'll spin, and people are like, whoa, like slow down there. I see it as her higher self attempting to shake and through that spinning motion is like just shedding all of this terrible stuff that she has like piled up. And it's her higher self trying to express itself through motion. And so there's something about, I guess, just that circular motion. It has a very cleansing, opening the circuitry in the body. Because some people look at her and they're like, she's just spinning like a dreidel over here. And I'm like, I see what's happening. She is broadening her bandwidth. Yeah. She has forgotten more than most will ever know about the way that, you know, programming and all of that stuff works. I want to see if I can plug because my battery is dying. I'm worried.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Let's hold on for 1 second.
I will check the chat. Thank you. Please go for it. Go ahead. Which is really fun because for me over here, you guys, I have to like switch back and forth. For some reason, my Zoom window will not allow both things to sort of operate on the same screen. So thank you for hanging out here, everybody over there in the YouTube land. Here's how we're going to do this, Jenny, if you're okay with this, because don't worry, we're not going to keep you all night, but maybe we'll do three readings. We'll do 3 readings, and you can do it short. We'll do 3 people, and for everyone else, you can absolutely, please, we're going to show you how to get a hold of Jenny so that you will be able to get a reading with her or connect with her in your own way. But for those of you guys in the chat, really, really good to see you here. Hello, Lauren Pritchard, Jesus News. I love you. Good to see your face on our channel. I mean that very sincerely. Good to see you, Lauren. Brooklyn Way, thank you. Absolutely. Good to see you as well. Everybody, Quantum Soulby, how's it going? Thank you for hanging out, you guys. I mean this very, very sincerely. And so it's been really good to have you here, by the way. Hopefully our Zoom screen is still going. I'm going to click back over to Zoom. So here's what's going to happen, you guys. I can kind of see the chat. If you want to get a quick reading with Jenny, maybe she'll pull a card, maybe 2.
I will.
I sort of put her on the spot on this one, you guys.
That's okay. I'm used to it. This is I love it.
Perfect.
I work best under pressure too. This is why, like, what's in the envelope? And I'm like,
no, honestly, that's a thing that I like about you, and that's a thing that I admire, because I too am one of those people where it's like I feel like if you're actually, for those of us that are truly adept in a wavelength of energy, it's like you will be able to just boom, and it's like showing a card. It's like, yep, I know what this is, bam, and it's like you don't actually know all the time, but a wavelength will kick in, and spirit will just roll with a thing. And so sometimes that's hard though, because I have done this with other people at like events and things, and they're like, I have to get ready, and I can't do it this fast, and I must work in confines. I think like when we're really working, that we will, and it's not, you know, a good, bad, right, or wrong thing, but some people will have the ability to snap into a thing instantly. And so thank you for being available for me, putting you on the spot like that.
Absolutely. I'm used to it. I work best under pressure, honestly.
Okay, cool.
So my camera changed a lot. I had to switch to my laptop's camera. That's why I look super like blurry right now, but it is what it is. So does the chat have questions, or there subject matters, topics?
We do actually, we do. And
Get
so
it.
I'm gonna, you guys, here's how it's gonna work, everybody. I'm just gonna grab people from the chat. I don't know who we're gonna get. And I have done a lot of tarot live streams, and I have learned that it's nearly impossible to grab people in order. So we just go with names and what shows up. And so before we do that though, because every time I do a tarot live stream, there's a lot of people who get skipped and a lot of people want readings. If you do want a reading with Jenny, how can they find you? How can they make that happen?
So if you want a one-on-one session with me, you're going to want to go to jennyconstantine.com. That is my website. That's how you schedule a session with me. It's really that simple. But yeah, so let's get it going.
JennyConstantine.com. Okay, cool. I'm just going to grab a name from the chat. Don't get mad if I don't choose you guys.
Yeah, it's all right, guys.
Here we go. We're going to start with Sunny D. Sunny D says, I would love a reading. Thanks for hanging out, Sunny D. Go ahead, take your time.
Okay, so are we just going to do some general cards for
you know what, you can do general. See, that's a thing I should have asked you about, because I am such a weirdo. I'll just pull a card for people and talk about it. But
okay.
Sunny D, if you're super fast, you can ask a question, but based on the fact that we have about it's usually about like a 7 to 12 second like a delay, like by the time we've said it, it's been a long time. And so
yeah, no, I totally get it.
Just kind of pulling 1 or 2 cards for people.
Let's do that.
Cool.
So usually what I do with these like on the fly readings is I'll do the internal mechanism, like what's going on with that person on the inside, and then we'll take a look at the external mechanisms, meaning everything that's going on with that person in their peripheral energy. So things that are not in their control. All right, so Sunny D from the chat, let's take a look. 2 cards, 1 for internal, 1 for external. I'm using the Family Tarot deck. Beautiful. It's actually a collective. I'll call back. Everybody needs me now all of a sudden. All right, so let's take a look. All right, internally, we have the 5 of Swords, okay, air energy, and then externally, we have the King of Pentacles. Okay, so it's not clear to me whether or not this individual is a male or a female. It doesn't really matter. But when the 5 of Swords comes up for something that's going on internally, because this is the element of air, this does have to do with the thoughts and the thought patterns. 5 of Swords is actually the card that comes up for me constantly because it's Aquarius. It's actually Venus and Aquarius is having to do with this card. It's really, I'm feeling like if you got all of these doubts right now, you may have tried something, a particular like a regimen or a project or something that you've tried to get off the ground for quite some time and maybe had failures with it. So it's like something you start and you just can't finish. This kind of implies that now is really not the time to give up, because when we look at the external mechanism, so things that are either going to be of help or hindrance to you, we have the King of Pentacles. And in this context, I feel like the King of Pentacles is going to be a significant support system and or physical resources, some kind of solid backing or solid sort of encouragement that allows you to feel this sense of, okay, I have space, I have room to try this out. And if I fail, it's not the worst thing in the world, because this King of Pentacles energy really emphasizes it's the long-term outcome. It's not about getting it done right now and coming up with something, producing something and showing, oh, this is really like focus on the long game. It's okay to take your time. 5 of Swords is a tough energy. Sometimes it's like you give up on something before you see it all the way through, because you're like, I can't do it anyway, so I'm just not going to try. This is something that I'm very accustomed to, but specifically in romantic relationships, I'll give up prematurely because I'm like, I can't win this. I don't want to feel that pain. I don't want to go through this. So I'll just go back all the way out. Do you know what I mean? And so this can happen. I see this a lot with people that want to start working in a particular field that's really outside what they're accustomed to, starting a new business, starting a new project. They're like, I can't see myself, doing this, and there's too much risk involved. But the King of Pentacles as a support system, I mean, this could be capital. This could be a significant person in your life that makes you feel supported enough. It could even be you. It could just be your sense of, all right, well, this is the long game, and give yourself some time for this to flourish. So I hope that helps.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Sunny D, as well. Also, I love the way you talk about the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords is a particular card that shows up in a lot of weird places. And I have noticed a lot of, because I used to sit there and watch like tarot readers on YouTube. Sorry, here, let me come back on the screen. I used to sit there and watch tarot readers on like YouTube and Facebook. When I first started doing this, it's like I wanted to go in like the tarot groups and do readings, but it's like I would try and they'd be like, "You're not an approved reader. You're not this," and I was like, "What?" But I know, and then so it's like I kind of got ostracized. Like it happens in a lot of areas, but what I noticed was that people would take certain cards, and it's like the Five of Swords was one that I think for me, it's like you have to create a personal relationship with your understanding of what those energies are. Otherwise, Five of Swords rolls in and you're like, okay, you're under attack. There's a problem. Something bad's happening. There's this, or you're the one attacking. You know what I mean? There's like a standardized version of a lot of these. Then there's like a multi-dimensional version, which is where I think what a lot of us are really doing is it's like we're scrying the information that comes from the cards, and it's like you're pulling multi-layered elements of info out of it. But anyway, before I go on a really long tangent again, let's grab somebody.
We could do a whole show just on a conversation about the tarot.
We can, and we will. Watch out. Watch out. Careful what you wish for. Anyway. Okay, let's grab another person. We're gonna grab. I have a habit of getting people with like really cool or weird screen names, and so here's a thing that I do on tarot readings. This was a while ago that they said they wanted a reading, so they're probably gone. Usually that's how it is. You'll be like, I want a thing, and then they bounce when it doesn't happen. So what I like to say is this is for this person and anyone else who needs to receive it. But the person's name is ipso facto, and they just said reading.
Reading.
Reading. Cool. Ipso facto. I love it. So,
so let's just get some guidance. I'm not even going to do the internal, external. I feel like let's just get a card and we'll see how it applies to you and your situation. This is meant for you. Take it how it resonates, as a lot of the tarot readers say. I'll watch a live stream of these tarots just going off, and I love it. It's so entertaining. There's some amazing readers out there. There's also some trash readers as well, but it's equally as entertaining.
You always find the one where you're like, what the hell? How is that? What? How did you go there? But anyway, I'm gonna get out of the way. Go ahead.
So I have the Four of Pentacles. So it's so funny. So the Four of Pentacles is a card that ever since I started learning tarot, I associate this with an archetype similar to like a Vladimir Putin type. Somebody that conserves their power, they conserve their resources, they sit almost as this immovable object, and they are completely in control of all four corners of their being, of their home, of their kingdom, of their business, what have you. So again, my personal relationship with this card. Now, as a form of guidance, to apply the Four of Pentacles as a form of guidance, I think that this is more of an invitation to look at the energy that you're putting out, specifically in terms of how you're lending yourself to people. Are you being helpful? Are people asking you for financial favors? Are people asking you for your energy? Do they need your help with this or with that? This is a look. This begs the question, where are you at with your own resources? Are you in a position to spare anything, or are you not? It's not clear to me whether you ought to go, helping all these people. Probably not, because Four of Pentacles does have this vibe of conserving your energy and holding back. Sometimes this comes up when you've overshared or you have overextended yourself in some regard, whether it be financially, energetically, or emotionally, and you've put too much out there. You could be sitting with the feeling of, oh man, I really put way too much into this person or situation, and now it would serve my best interest to, take inventory and just kind of hold your horses, hold your fire a little bit. But Four of Pentacles, be conservative with your spending. Sometimes this is about, things in the home, making sure that, there's no leaks or cracks in the foundation of the home. You know, you're going to want to pay attention to security things, cybersecurity, personal security, that's the vibe with the Four of Pentacles. So I hope that helps.
Love it.
I want to try to keep a pace here.
Oh, that's perfect. No, dude, I love it. That was really, really good. Thank you. And like, once again, I say this as a person who reads tarot literally every single day. For those of you guys that are wondering, like, how do I figure out how does she know that the Four of Pentacles means that, or how does the Five of Swords mean that? One of the cool things about the sort of wavelength and the time frame that we're in, you guys, is that you are creating your own personal relationship with the cards in tarot. And for one person, it's going to mean one thing, and for another person, it's going to mean another thing. And you're going to find these interesting threads in which the interpretations will meet. Because for me, that's very much a Four of Pentacles. It's also a bunch of other stuff as well, but that's how you will know when people have internalized the frequency of divination or whatever it is for them, because you will create your own version of everything.
Oh, yeah.
But I also say that I don't actually know what Four of Pentacles means in old school tarot. I literally made up all my own meanings.
Really?
I am so real. I never took a tarot class. I never actually read a tarot book until after I was doing it professionally full time. I literally was like, I think this is what they mean. And I sat with a woman one afternoon, and I wrote down a few meanings of cards. And she was like, don't worry, you'll know what it is. And I was like,
oh yeah.
But it was true. And so anyway.
There's some like prison rules when it comes to tarot. Like, I read the books as soon as I covereth to covereth. And I started, I needed to know the book meanings, and I had to memorize the key words for every card. But then you find over time, when you start talking to people, or you pull cards for the day, and then the day happens, and by the end of the day you're like, oh, that's what the Three of Pentacles was. Oh, that's yes. So it's through real life that you learn the language, the codex of these cards. It's real life. It's a living language. So yeah, it's so much fun, you guys.
That's the way you put that. Yeah. Okay, are you ready? We're going to immediately go to another reading. Don't worry, we're only going to do a few more, I promise. Okay, I'm just going to grab somebody on here. Somebody actually had a question. I'm going to scroll back to it because it was a pretty good question.
Yeah.
Where did it go? Okay. Oh my Lord. Okay, here we go. This is from a person named Skylar Champagne. He says, I am currently in the beginning stages of court with his daughter. May I have a card asking higher self for guidance moving forward? So he's going through a court case in his life, in his own world, and anything that you have in that area. Thanks for watching, Skylar Champagne. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's get some guidance for you, Skylar Champagne. And another thing, just a quick tip for anybody out there that is a reader or wants to be one or studying it. Don't overthink the shuffle. It's really not that complicated.
Totally.
Don't overthink that. I used to, oh my God, I used to overthink it. This works. Divination works because we have an unyielding, unwavering trust in synchronicity. I trust the mechanism. I trust my intention. There's nothing that I trust more than my own heart, my own being. So that's why I tell people, you don't have to sit there and do the whole freaking thing. Like, just pull the fucking card. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's going to work out. So guidance for you. Oh, here we have the King of Pentacles. I'm going to pull another one. Okay. All right. Look. So King of Pentacles, Seven of Cups combination. So we have very strong, grounded earth energy. King of Pentacles, it doesn't really matter, I guess, the context of the court thing. If you're fighting for custody of your daughter or if you're fighting against your daughter, I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on. This combination with the Seven of Cups here, I'll show you the cards so you can see, even though the glare is pretty intense right now. These are weird. It's just a weird light right now.
You have the square ones. Well, how cool. I've seen that. Yeah, very, very interesting.
This is a really fun deck. This is gifted to me. So Seven of Cups is a Piscean energy. So these two energies compete with each other. What this implies is that you're not accustomed to being in a situation where with the Seven of Cups, where you could be dealing with people that are very in their head, and they're not in touch with reality. Like you could be dealing with a particular person that you, for whatever reason, your sensibility, your means of communication, there's a disconnect. So, because what I'm getting here is frustration, is like there's too many things up in the air and the conversations are not definitive enough for your taste. Because you're like, no, things need to be crystal clear here, and let's come up with a plan and, figure A, B, C, that kind of thing. But the Seven of Cups implies that you may want to anticipate a period of uncertainty. Things may not be entirely in your control with the Seven of Cups. This is a very psychic card. Every time the Seven of Cups comes up for me, it's when you get really caught up in all of the possibilities of what is to come, and in a way that can kind of compound your or it can strain your vision, because you're entertaining all of these various possibilities, and you're like, here's the thing, you can't really control it. What I'm getting here is that this is uncomfortable for you because this is a situation that you cannot control. It's outside of your control. I'm actually not even super guided to like pull a card on the outcome, because my feeling is that this is completely up in the air right now. I hope that this is resonating. It looks like there's no immediate solution. This is one of those things people really want us to be able to tell them like exactly what to do and how it's going to work out. And so often that's just not the case, especially if it's a work in progress, like in the middle of a court case or something like that, which means that the outcome is very sensitive to the individual decisions of the people involved here. And you could be dealing with a very sensitive Piscean person that frustrates your very straightforward means of communication, if that makes sense. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. Hang in there, Skylar Champagne. Having been through a similar thing at another stage of my life, I definitely feel you on just the pain and uncertainty of it. And thank you for that as well. I really love where you go with the Seven of Cups. Once again, a really cool internalization of tarot in their own way. And thank you for that. I really
one more thing.
Yes.
So I do have tarot, but I also have my own deck that I made, and these are literally just flashcards from Dollar Tree, and I wrote down like 100 just messages, and I use these. They're just messages. And so for you, I got media attention and network, you snooze, you lose, and bad idea. And I'm going to tell you, be careful what you're posting on social media. Be careful what you're putting out there, because there is a chance that you could be, you could have the attention of a party or a person that is committed to analyzing what it is that you're putting on social media. So just be careful with what you're putting out there. I don't know if you're being observed or you're being watched, but be very careful with what you're tying your name to. Could be used against you. If it's family law, family court, that is some of the nastiest like tactics that they use. So be careful with anything that you're saying.
Oh, that's really good. I feel you on that one. Thank you. We are definitely going to do another one, and then we're probably going to roll out of here. I know we have been doing this for a while, so we're going to grab one more reading. And the really fun thing is I had a really cool moment of like awkward embarrassment. Like, you know how you'll be on Zoom and you'll be yawning and drinking water in the background. As that was playing, it sort of came back on the screen right when you were saying a really sensitive thing to Skylar. So people were like, what the hell? But I have noticed that we're going to make that the thumbnail for this thing. It was literally background, you know, that moment where people are, they're like doing their thing off camera, and I was like, oh shit, that was me. Okay.
No.
So anyway, sorry.
Everybody knows your intention.
Oh yeah.
Get away with it.
And people will know that if there's one thing I'm going to do on every show that we do, it's like I will like embarrass myself in a really fun way. Like whether it's a weird glitch or a thing, I think it's Spirit's way of forcing me to not take myself too seriously.
Same thing happens
like
to me.
It's like someone comes in, they're all, and I'm like, and I
Same
do
thing happens to me. I welcome it. I don't care. I learned. Don't take yourself too seriously, because be humble.
Okay, so we're gonna do one more reading, and I have a feeling we're gonna do another one of these shows in the future. And so before we do that, because I know there's lots of people that wanted to get a reading from Jenny. I believe the website is it jennyconstantine.com?
Yes, it's just by name.
jennyconstantine.com. You guys, please do get a reading with her. By engaging in sort of having these energetic transactions and doing these things with people in our world, by experiencing their energy, you are also serving to awaken that energy and those abilities within yourself, even if it's just watching this show. So don't worry, it's not always one of those things where people are like, you mean I have to book a session with you to do it? No, sometimes you'll just hear their voice on a show. And so, but yes, booking a session definitely helps. And so anyway, that said, okay, we're gonna do one more reading here. We're gonna grab somebody. Who will it be? Yeah, see, it's always weird because then I have to make a choice.
I was just gonna say, look at you just doling out karma right now.
Here we go. Here it is. Oh wait, yeah. So they're asking about a specific person. Well, here we're just gonna go with it from Laura Henderson, and this is an example of a question that I might not normally take on a live stream, because sometimes people will say who, and so I don't do the who thing. Like, I'm gonna tell you the name of someone, but we can say, what do we need to know about Laura Henderson cutting cords with somebody? Tried to think of people that she needs to cut cords, and so what does Laura Henderson need to know about cutting cords? There we go.
All right, one more. Okay, cutting cords. We got two for you. So we have the Strength card right here. This is beautiful. And then we have the King of Wands. So I can see here, King of Wands is an archetype. You know, just from what I can tell, we could be talking about a male, Sagittarius, Aries, Leo, possibly very fiery male. He could be very assertive. He could be very attractive, exciting. All of the things that we love about a King of Wands archetype, okay? And then the Strength card is also a fire energy. So this is Leo energy as well. So just as a blanket statement, the primary element here is fire. So what that implies to me is that the speed, the temperature with which you ought to approach this cord cutting is probably pretty quick. My feeling is that you've likely tried the slow, patient route, which is going to be more of the water earth element, which is like a more calculated, slow and steady, feel your way into it type of vibe. But the Strength card, King of Wands, implies seizing with a type of tenacity, an opportunity to cut those cords off while you can. Strike while the iron is hot. If you are in a position with the Strength card, it usually does imply the stepping into a position of responsibility. It's a very feminine card in my experience, having a lot to do with what happens when someone owns their power in such a way that it makes other people uncomfortable, because they're like, oh my God, like, oh, suddenly standing up for herself, you know what I mean? And it can be very triggering for the world around you, especially if previously you've adopted a more calculated and intuitive approach to it. You know, I think what you have to gain, if you're feeling guided to go ahead and do this, my feeling is that it's the speed with which that you cut this off that may actually save you a whole bunch of time. That's kind of what I'm getting. King of Wands energy is very rapid, very fast moving energy. So as quickly as you cut this cord, I think you may find that the ensuing changes, everything starts to happen very quickly, and you might not have to wait as long as you think for the a result. You know, so often what keeps people, holds people back from cutting a cord is the unknown. They're like, but I can't, I don't know, and I don't, you know. Well, okay, if we consider what the tarot has to tell us, this implies that the speed and tenacity with which you go ahead and make this your business, and you go ahead and you exercise your sovereignty and you cut that, it's almost like this exact parallel result that you can, as quickly as you cut it off, that's as quickly as you'll experience a type of resurgence of personal power and energy. So a lot of energy associated with this. Now, just to apply some contrast, if we were looking at a situation where I felt that patience, and it required some time, and just hold off, and maybe the situation will change. I would be sure to tell you that, but that's not the vibe that I'm getting at all. I think you may actually have an opportunity, a window of time to go ahead and seize this. That's what the Strength card is about, is taking power. It also requires a type of discipline and restraint, a type of you don't have to be emotional about it. Chances are the emotions have already occurred and have done their work on you. Now is a time for action. And the King of Wands, one thing about the King of Wands, he's not the most emotional. He's very reactive. He's action oriented, and he moves forward almost with to these types of blinders on, where nothing in the peripheral matters. It's all about forward motion. So my advice to you, go ahead and do it fast, do it while you have the upper hand. And I think you might be surprised at how quickly you feel a sense of kind of restoration of your personal power.
I love it. Thank you. Well, really,
welcome.
Very, very cool. Like, once again, I love your interpretation of the King of Wands. I think King of Wands was we've been doing kind of like this 30 days of tarot thing, where I'm doing like a daily card on the channel right now, and King of Wands was our card of the day today.
No way.
Oh yeah,
Love
no,
it.
totally. And so for those of you guys who don't know, what do you do when the King of Wands comes out in your life? Whatever the hell you want to do. That's what he must do. And but yeah, I love it. And the fun thing is, I think that Laura was wanting us to say who, because she says family or friends. I would say just search your heart, and maybe allow things to be revealed to you. No one psychic is going to show up and say, check it out, you need to cut off so and so and so and so, sweetie, because they're draining your energy. That's really not how it works. Spirit's going to talk to you and sort of give you the advice on who and what that needs to be in your own time. In fact, I tend to get very skeptical of those people that show up and give you this, like, okay, there's 3 people in your energy field that are dragging you down, and one of them wants this, and it's like a weird sort of theatrical fortune teller vibe. And so anyway, not to ping on Laura too much, I'm just kind of commenting on what you were saying, but let's see, is there anything else you would want people to know about your work, or the kind of the tarot stuff? And it could also be outside of that. I want to give you, I know we've been here for a while, but I want to make sure that everything that you want to talk about is said or mentioned.
Well, honestly, I think we could do another episode, another show, because there's really so much. I love that we're both readers, because it's just, and I'd love to just do a purely tarot show where we're discussing tarot and we're doing readings for the audience. That's so much fun. I think
has been created.
I mean, we're building the timeline. We're opening it all up right now. No, I think, I've said a lot. You've provided a really comfortable space for me to share, and I'm accustomed to sharing all that stuff, even in a highly uncomfortable space as well. It's kind of what my archetype has always been, is say the inconvenient and uncomfortable thing at the most inopportune and inconvenient time.
Yep, totally right. Oh Lord.
But I mean, it served me in the long run. It's gotten me right where I needed to go. And at the time, it got me in so much trouble, but it's okay. I think some of us are born to piss people off. But I would just say thanks a great deal. I was really looking forward to doing this. This is different for me. I've been doing a lot of shows behind, like for subscribers only, for Big Swear and the Road to Ruta group. So kind of dipping a toe back into the YouTube world, just something that was very timely for me, and something I hope to, get back into the groove with. Is, to be perfectly honest, I've been a little bit disenfranchised with YouTube. The AI is very aggressive, and like I said earlier, it's an irritant. I might go take a bubble bath, now.
Well, no, real dude, that is a real thing. As a person who does a lot of stuff on YouTube now, it's part of my assignment right now. Yes, you will. It's like you have to clear yourself. You got to close a couple doors, otherwise you'll still be in conversations with people a couple of days later in your mind. That is a very real thing. And But so how can people find you once again? It's through jennyconstantine.com. Anywhere else that people can just view your work?
Yeah, so jennyconstantine.com is my website, and that's how you can contact me for readings. If you'd like to follow my social media, I am Jenny Constantine on Facebook, and I am SpaceWitch45 on Instagram. Now, just so everybody knows, part of my mission is to really excite and trigger people. It's something I learned a long time ago, is that I had a sense of showmanship about me, and I decided to use that. So I'll say things on social media that can be often received as brash, as triggering, as harsh, and I'm doing this because it really means a lot to me to open up conversations, and also to live and embody my own truth, and that is that, you know, be loud and contribute your voice in whatever way that you think is appropriate, because it does serve to crystallize the necessary timeline. So I allow myself to be a beacon and make crazy posts and start all kinds of crazy conversations, because I'm a mover and a shaker. I think, like so many of us in the community, I feel a sense of just rip it all apart, because what is underneath is more important. So it does require an air of channeled and sort of intentional destruction. So if I come off like a bit of an asshole, that's totally that's my intention. I realize it. Okay.
No, be real. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on here, and why, like, I was like, okay, cool. We have people who will really tell it like it is. And it's not even so much that's telling it like it is. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally agree. Oh shit. Okay, boom. And so, I mean, really keep on being real. I mean that very, very sincerely. It's very, very valued. I think in our soul group right now, there are not enough people who are willing to go, okay, hold on, what the fuck? You know what I mean? We have to be able to do that. Yeah, we could do it in respectful ways or weird ways, but one of the things I really value about you is that you're willing to go like, whoa, hold on.
Hold on a second.
The thing that we need to do. And so yeah, thank you for being here. We have so many questions in the chat. I love you guys. We are going to come back and do this again. Thank you very sincerely, because a lot of people have questions for you. They want to ask you about all kinds of stuff. And so please do follow her on her own channel. Do you have a YouTube right now as well?
So I do. My YouTube is Jenny Constantine. It's just my name. So you could just Google or whatever, and you'll find all the necessary links. Like I said, I'm not active on my YouTube channel now, but if you were to look up my name in a YouTube search, you're going to find dozens and dozens of videos that I've done across multiple channels throughout the years. So I have done a lot of work on YouTube. I have a lot of content out there. It's very easy to find. And it goes back into my days of being a baby tarot reader. So it's very entertaining, quite embarrassing, but I have no regrets about anything that I put out there. I'm just like, you know, let my mistakes.
You must evolve.
We've got to evolve. So this has been so much fun, really so enjoyable. Thanks so much for having me.
We will definitely do it again. In the meantime, you guys, please go to jennyconstantine.com. Please follow her on the relevant social media platforms. And the cool thing is we are going to be doing kind of a short run of people. We're going to be bringing a few more people into our sort of soul group right now from our soul group into this sort of channel to kind of talk about what they're doing in the coming weeks. I think it's actually next week. I think it's going to be February. I think next week is February 12th. We will have Sean Bond. Sean Bond is a person he was just a really big part of my early awakening journey. He's one of the most unique and individual voices in our soul group. And he's also one of the people that I just don't see enough of. We don't hear enough of him, and I want to know what's going on in his life. And so Sean Bond's going to be coming in. After that, we have a couple other people. If you know me, you'll know I'll reach out to a bunch of them, and most of them don't reply. So we're working with the ones who reply. And so we'll have some other people showing up. But in the meantime, Jenny, thank you for being here. I look forward to doing another one of these shows. And yeah, we shall be back. Thanks for being a part of the soul group.